Okay, so the learning objectives for today are for us to know the difference between a cover letter and a CV, for us to understand how to create a CV and cover letter, for us to understand how to send a CV and cover letter, understand what hiring managers are looking for, and then understand how to demonstrate the traits that we have in our CV. So it's possible that you are qualified for a job, but your CV does not say so. So sometimes your CV may not be marketing you very well. So those are the things that we are going to look at this morning. Okay, like one of us rightly said, resume is usually a 1 page, maximum 2 pages. Usually, even if you have 20 years experience, your resume shouldn't be more than 2 pages. But a CV is more like a cumulative, a document. So you can state all your experiences, all your achievements, everything that you have in your career. So a CV can sometimes go up to 5 pages or more. Another thing to note is that in Europe, the term CV is used, while in America, the resume is used, but they most times refer to the same document of job application document, which is either your CV or your resume. In Nigeria, we use CV. One thing to note is that if you have 0 to 5 years experience, your CV shouldn't be more than 2 pages, because really, nobody wants to spend more than 20, 30 seconds on your CV if we are doing manual shortlisting, because for every job advert that we put out there, we get as much as 500 applications, sometimes even 2,000. I've done a job advert where I got like 20,000 applications though it was a graduate trainee position. So you can imagine. So 20,000 CVs, and I have to go through all 20,000. So I cannot spend much time on one CV. So if your CV does not catch my attention, it means that your CV goes to the trash, even though you may be qualified. Are we following?
Yes, we are following, ma'am.
Yes, we are, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, we are, ma'am.
Okay, so now we'll just look at the difference between CV and resume, which I have just said. Basically, they are for the same purpose most of the time, not all of the time though. They contain your name, your contact information, your work experience, your relevant work-related skills. There are some skills you have, but they are not related to that job you're applying for. You may not need to put it there. A CV includes a summary of academic background, as well as teaching, research experiences, publications, presentations, awards. But a resume focuses on work experience. And all these are listed in reverse order, in chronological reverse order. That means the most recent one is number 1. So if you have an experience, let's say you're working somewhere currently. So maybe you started in April of this year. So it's April 2020 till date. That's the first one. And then your last job becomes the second one. The one before that becomes the third one, in that order. This is because the recruiter or the employer wants to see what you're doing now. Sometimes we may not really go down to all your experiences. If I see that the first experience, that's the most recent one and the previous one, are in alignment with what I want, I may not need to check the other ones. Sometimes we only check the first page of your CV. That's why the first page has to catch our attention. The first page needs to contain relevant information. Now, the CV mostly is either for official or for personal use, but the resume is mostly for official use. And really, to be honest with you, the shorter your CV is, the better for you. If you have a 1-page CV, that is, in fact, I love 1-page CVs because it gives you everything in one shot. You don't need to be scrolling. You just look at it and then you know if this meets your requirements or not. So even if you have plenty of things to write, it will do you good to summarize. You don't need to embellish anything. Just summarize it and put down the key points. The key points, because the idea is for the person looking at your CV to be interested enough to want to meet you. Now, when they meet you, you can now, all those things that you wanted to write before that made your CV to be 3 pages, you can now use your mouth to convince the person. But if you don't get an interview, really, then you won't have that opportunity to sell yourself. Okay, what should be in your CV? Now, I will just go straight to it so that we'll have enough time for the question and answers, and especially because we already have an idea of what the CV is. So I will just go straight to it instead of trying to get our answers for now. Okay, so what should be in your CV? Personal details. Normally, it will be your name, your address, your telephone number, and your email. Your date of birth is not necessary, except if the employer asks for it. Now, if they ask for it, you can put it, but if they don't ask for it, you don't need to put it. During the interview, they can ask you if they want to know. Most employers don't really care what your age is, as long as you can do the job. Now, one thing about putting age is that they may not really care about your age, but by putting the age when you are not asked to do that, you may actually put yourself in a disadvantage. For instance, you can put your age there, and they may be like, this person is too old for this role. This person is too young for this role. Now, they didn't ask you. You have already shot yourself on the leg by putting your date of birth. So there are some information that these days we don't include them. But when you are asked, you answer. It's not like you're hiding that information. It's just that that information is not relevant, because those things, they don't really affect whether you can do the job or not. The main thing that we are discussing, the main reason why you want to apply for a job is because you feel you can do the job. What the employer is looking for is somebody that can do the job. So the age does not really matter whether the person can do the job. The person's gender does not really determine whether the person can do the job. So those kind of things now, we don't include them. But if, let's say, an advert says you should include it, sometimes some employers also give you a link where you fill a form. So in those kind of forms, they now specify what information they need. In those instances, then you provide those information. But when you're just sending your CV, maybe there's a job opening you want to apply, or you are doing an unsolicited application, you don't need to include all this information because they may not even be to your advantage. Okay, and then your full name, your address, your email, your phone number. Now, for security reasons, nowadays, because we know what has been happening, I advise people not to, this is me advising people now, I advise people not to include the number of their house. Like what we see on the screen now, you see 30 Freedom Lane, Ikeja. I would advise this person to write Freedom Lane, Ikeja, because your CV can go to places. Now we do everything online, just for security reasons. If your employer, usually when you are employed, they get all your details all over again, so they can get your house number. It's not like you're hiding your house number from your potential employer. It's just that you don't want your house number to fall into the wrong hands, just for security reasons. But other than that, make sure your house address is correct. I know that nowadays they don't do mail by post like before, when maybe your employment letter will be sent to you by the post office. But make sure everything in your CV is correct. What should be in your CV? Your education and your qualification, your degree, what you studied. Mention your class of degree, except if it is poor. So if you have a 2-1, it's okay to say a 2-1. If you have a 2-2, I know a lot of people they put second class honors. If I see second class honors, I know it's a 2-2. Now, this is not compulsory. What the employer wants to know is that you studied accounting. Most of the time, they don't really care if you have a 2-1 or a 2-2, as long as you can do the job of an accountant without error. Now, it is not necessary to put your primary school, just your secondary school and your university. If you have a second degree, you can put it. There's no need to tell us that you went to Omaomi Nursery and Primary School, because really, for the job, what you need basically is the skills you got from your secondary school and your university. Now, when you think of your CV, when you think of your interview, think of what is relevant to the job. It's not about having a CV that is full. What you should be asking yourself is this relevant to this job? Does this, if I remove this thing, does it affect the weight of this CV? So anything that is not relevant, there's no need to put it there. So that the information that the recruiter needs to go through will be less even. It favors you if the information is less. But not that you have less information that are not weighty. You need to put important information, but irrelevant information. Anything that I want to know about you, when you come for the interview, we'll ask you. In fact, I'm sure that we have had some questions that you'll be wondering, how is this relevant to this job when you have gone for an interview? So anything that the employer wants to know, they can ask you when they see you. But please don't put irrelevant information. For instance, if you look at the screen, you will see that this person included the WAEC, everything. This is not really necessary, except it is required. You can just put that you have WAEC 2004, University of Lagos 2009. Now, sometimes you can put University of Lagos 2005 to 2009. That is okay to tell us when you started and when you finished. But another thing with that is that when you have a strike, like this year with the pandemic, there is no school. So it will affect the graduation year of some people. Now, when you put 2005, it may not be 2009 again, it may be 2021. Now, the trick with that is that when you put your start date and your finish date, and the recruiter will be like, this person studied a 4-year course in 6 years. You may not have the opportunity to explain. If it's during an interview, it's easy to explain. But what if you don't get to that point? So it's usually safer to put your year of graduation, because that's really the information that is important. That you graduated from Unilag 2009. That you started in 2005, it's okay, but really, if it's not there, you wouldn't have missed out on any relevant information, especially if you didn't do your studies in exactly 4 years or 5 years, as the case may be, for the course that you studied. Okay, so we now go to the experience part. Your work experience is a vital part of your CV. In fact, that's the main part. That's what the employer is looking for. Your experience, what have you done before? Because we believe that if you have done it before, you can do it again. So if you have done something before, you can do something related to it again, even if it's not exactly what you have done before. So your work experience, you have to put the name of the organization, and then what did you do when you were with them? How long were you there? What are the achievements while you were there? And then it should come from the most recent to the oldest, like I said before. So everything on your CV is starting from the most current, then you move backwards. So even if it's education, you state your university first before your secondary school. If you had an MSc after your BSc, you put your MSc first, your BSc, then your WAEC or NECO, as the case may be, just like that. So even in your work experience too, the most recent first, or the current one, and then the one after that, and the one just like that. Now, achievements show your productivity. Now, sometimes some people actually don't put their responsibility in their CV. They just put their achievement. But this is if you have experience. If you don't have a lot of experience, like when you have up to 5 years experience, what people will be looking for in your CV is not just what you did, but what you achieved. But when you have like 0 to 5, 0 to 2 years experience, what we'll be looking at is what did you do? What have you done? Now, even if you haven't achieved much, but you have, because we see that you're still starting, you're still growing. So we want to know what you have done so far. So you may not be able to just list your achievements without listing what you have done. Because really, you can have 10 responsibilities and you have 3 achievements, or out of that 10 responsibilities, you have done only 2 achievements. So this is really not bad as long as there is achievement. But somebody might have, who has more experience, a person might have 20 responsibilities, but they have 5 achievements. So they might decide just to put the 5 achievements without putting their responsibilities, because the job title at that point tells us what they do. And because even if they list everything, their CV may be going in multiple pages. So that's for people who have plenty of experience. Now, achievements show your productivity. Since many employers are result-oriented, an achievement-based CV helps you stand out as opposed to duties-based CV. Now, the framework of achievement is CAR. That's a framework for you to use when listing your achievements in your CV. Just think CAR. Now, the context, the action, and the results. So what the context describes the work environment, like the number of people you were working with, the size of your organization, the depth of your work. For example, you are in a team of 5. Now, the action speaks about what you did in that context, in that past action. The number, one thing about listing your achievements is that we need figures, we need specifics in percentages, in numbers, things that can be measured really. And then the results talks about the outcome. That action you did, what did it result to? Did it increase sales? Did it increase the number of registration, for instance? Did it reduce costs? Those are the kind of things that we need. So sometimes, even though you're not in sales, you didn't make money, but you reduced costs, so you saved money. So that also is an achievement. So the result talks about you describing how what you did positively affected the company, not necessarily an individual. But how did it affect the company? How did it affect the company activities, the customers, the staff of the company? How did it achieve the ease of doing business for the company? So sometimes it may not be in naira and kobo, but it may be that something that usually took the company or the staff 5 days to do, because of something you did, they can now be done in a day. So you have saved them 4 days of energy. You have saved 1 hour, you have saved energy, so you have saved money. So those are the kind of things that. So if you say that you saved because you introduced so and so, this particular activity that used to take 5 days now takes 1 day. That is an achievement. Now we know that you saved 4 days of man-hour. Now, talking about the things that will be in your CV, we continue. Your skills need to be in your CV. These are the competencies that you have acquired from past experiences. They could be soft skills or hard skills. Soft skills are mainly just the way they are called, soft and hard. Hard has to do with technical skills, like you are an engineer. Hard skills is the technical of being an engineer. You are like an electrician. But soft skills has to do with things that are like communication, like leadership, things that we cannot really touch per se. And then one good thing about soft skills is that they are transferable. Soft skills are skills you can use irrespective of what you are doing. But hard skills are specific to your task. So you have learned carpentry, for instance. So that hard skill is for furniture. You have learned, let's say, driving, for instance. Driving has to do with you and moving the vehicle. Now, if you have learned soft skill, let's say written communication, for instance, it doesn't matter what you're doing, whether you're a driver, carpenter, whether you're a salesperson, whether you're an IT person, you will be using your written communication skills. So that's how to differentiate them. Then your hobbies and interests, they are not really necessary, but you can include them in your CV. This gives us an idea of who you are when you are not in the office. And this also gives us an impression of what kind of person you are in the workplace. So this, your hobbies and interests is just a way of gauging who you are. Besides the work, what kind of person, what kind of personality do you have? even if you don't include them, we can ask you during the interview. Just know that at the interview, any question can be asked, as long as you're there physically, or whether it's sometimes interview can also be by video. In fact, a lot of them happens by Zoom these days, by Skype, even WhatsApp video and all. So when you even ordinary telephone where you can only hear the person's voice, interviews also happen on that platform as well. So even if your hobbies are not there, the interviewer will always ask you if it's necessary. Now, you can also include your awards, the awards that you have received, if they are relevant. Remember that whatever you're including in your CV, ask yourself, how does this promote me? What does this do for the work I'm applying? Is this relevant to this job? It's not about listing everything that you have achieved, but is it relevant to this job? For instance, let's say during your undergraduate days, you were Miss Lossa. Miss Lossa is the Student Association for Law Students. So let's say you were Miss Lossa during the student week, and you're applying for, let's say, a front desk officer. Will Miss Lossa help you? It may not, because really what they want is what shows your skills. Miss Lossa may show us that you are presentable, really, but it may not show us your interaction with people in terms of being at the front desk and attending to our customers. But let's say, on the other hand, you were part of the election monitoring committee during your LOSA activities of selecting your officials. And then you are applying for documentation officer, for instance. You can see that you monitored election. Election also includes documenting, numbers of people and ensuring that things go according to the stipulated rules during the departmental election. You can see that somehow this is relevant to documentation officer, so you can include it. So even though it is extracurricular activity in the university, you can see that this also, show us that you're responsible, and then you can take up responsibility, and then it tells us that you can, do things accordingly, which is what we need for that documentation officer, for instance. That's for awards. Okay, so this, I don't know if you can see this screen very well, but this is an example of a CV. This is a one-page CV. Can we see it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we can see it.
Mr. Jibade, is this visible from where you are?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so by the side, you can see the different parts of the CV highlighted for this particular CV. You can see the person's name. Now you can either put all your names or just one name. Like this person put Neka Obi. Let's say the person's name is Neka Obi and has a second name, Esther. You can put all of that if you want. And then if you want to put the surname first, which is advisable, but it's not compulsory. When you put your surname first, you put a comma, and then you put your other name or your other names. So that tells the person looking at the CV that that is your surname, that in case they want to differentiate. Now, looking at this name, we know that Neka is a Nigerian name and it's mostly first names. So anybody that sees this CV, for instance, will know that Obi is the surname. There are names like that. If your name is John Udo, I will assume that Udo is your surname. But sometimes there are names that You don't even know the one that is the surname, especially if you're not from that part of the country. And then there are some surnames that are also used as first names. So in that case, you can put your surname first, comma, and then the rest of your names. Now, for me, I would advise that you put your second name, especially if your name is a common name, like this person, Neka Obi. Neka is a common name, Obi is a common name. What if there's another Neka Obi that applies? How do we differentiate your, we may be able to differentiate and invite you, but God forbid that they want to send an offer letter and they send to the other one and they wanted to send to you. You understand? So sometimes some things don't really cost much to do. So it's better to put your surname and your two names. Most people in Nigeria have two names. So just put your two names or the initial of the second name. That way it will differentiate who the person is. Now, looking at this CV here, you will notice that the person's address is there, the phone number, the email. Now, I want to say something about the email. Please, getting an email is free, whether on Gmail or Yahoo or Hotmail, official sounding email. It can be your name, your full name, maybe one of your initial and the other name. Like if you see the one on the screen now, you will see that it's neka.obi@gmail or nekaobi@gmail. You know, sometimes you see some people, they will say Neka for love at Gmail, baby blossom at, you know, those kind of unserious sounding. You may have those kind of emails. Maybe the first time you open an email, you were still in school, so you did the fun email address. There's nothing wrong with that. But now that you are now in the job world, you are now in the work environment, treat it as a business. So we are open for business. It cannot be Blossom, Lovely Neka, or any of those kind of names. If your name is Blossom, then it's okay. I will see that your name is Blossom. So I will see Blossom Neka or something. But if your name is not Blossom, don't just have one email that is for official use. Like me, I have how many? I have 4 emails now. The one that is the work email. Then I have 3 emails because the one I had during my university days is one of such emails with the fun email address. So when I started work, I had to do an email that has my full name. So my email is Mane Kanoli, full like that. And anybody that sees it will know that, okay. And it is not easy to see another Mane Kanoli like that. So nobody will mix my email with another one. And you know, one thing about things not to do in your CV is not really that those other things are bad. The main reason is you don't want to distract the recruiter. We don't want to create a distraction. We want, as you see my CV, as I come for the interview, we are discussing how do I fit this role? How do I meet the requirement for this role? So we don't want any other thing to distract that discussion. So even in my CV, I don't want you to be thinking about other things because I wrote Lovely Blossom. You not be thinking about it instead of looking at my experience or my course of study. So you don't want anything to distract. That's why you need to focus on what you put out there, because sometimes you may not be there to defend it. Sometimes a CV can be thrown aside for very, you may say, flimsy reasons. But if you look at it, that I've had times that I look to, maybe when I'm actively recruiting, I can look at 300 to 500 CVs a day. Now, you can see that if I really want to do that, I cannot waste time on a particular person's CV. So if your CV, maybe the main things that promote you are on the last page and your CV is 5 pages, I open the first page, second page, I'll say, this person is not qualified. Meanwhile, what I'm looking for is there, but you didn't give me, the encouragement to get to the 5 pages. There are some people that they have 6 pages, and I go through all 6 pages. Why? Because as I'm looking at it, it's interesting. It makes sense, and it shows me that this person, can do what we are looking for. Now, you see the person's education. If you see this person listed 2004 to 2008, this is fine. Especially if you finished in 4 years. Now, sometimes we don't really look at those things, but what of the times when we do? University of Lagos, BA Economics, Dean's List. Dean's List, that you made Dean's List is okay. If you have the space, you can put it, but really, whether it's there or not, does not add or remove anything. Now, you can see the person's professional experience. Anti-Ann Corporation, Surulere. So we know that he's in Surulere, Lagos, that she worked. Assuming that maybe this job is in Lagos, we know, okay, this person already has an idea of working in Lagos. So, and then Student Development Corporation, Unilag, the person puts it and puts the responsibilities in that place. Leadership experience, Unilag Economic Society, the magazine. This is a relevant experience, especially if I want to assume, does anybody have more than 2 years work experience? I want to hear a voice. If you have more than 2 years work experience, please say something.
Yes, I do have more than 2 years.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Who else? Is there any other
Yes,
person that has
ma'am.
more? Okay. Is there anybody that has up to 5 years experience? Work experience after NYSC? Okay. Okay, so we have up to 2 years experience. Now, everything I say applies to 0 to 5 years experience, because I believe that that's where we are at this point in our career. So there are some relevant experience. So as you gather more experience, you remove some experiences. So by the time you get to 2 years experience, 5 years experience, you may not need to include your Unilag experience, because now you have enough work experience to show. Now, when you have 0 experience, what we refer to is not that you really don't have experience, but you don't have a formal work experience, especially after NYSC. So we are now considering, what did you do as an undergraduate? What did you do when you were secondary school? What did you do when you were serving? So all these are experience that show the potential you have. So that's why you need to put them. But if you have 5 years experience and you're still putting what you did in Unilag, really, it means your CV will be longer than is required. As you grow in your experience, you remove all those things, because now you have enough experience to speak for you. You don't really need to say what you did when you were in Unilag anymore. Okay, so if there are other skills that you have, you put them, and then you put your hobbies, if need be. Really, if you have space, if you want your CV to be a 1-page document, you really don't need to put hobbies. If the hobbies will make your CV turn to 1.5 page or go into the 2nd page, you don't need to put the hobbies. Because I can ask you, if when you come to the interview, your hobby is not what you're going to use for the job. But I know that there are some hobbies that are relevant to the job. So if your hobby is relevant to the job, then please do include it. Okay, so what sets your CV apart? We have been discussing this while we have been, going through the other slides. The appearance of your CV. Clearly and carefully laid out and not too crammed. Let your CV be reader friendly. Let it be, separate headings from body. Like if you look at this CV that we looked at now, you will see that there are subheadings. There are professional experience, leadership experience, skills. So I know where to look. If I have 20 of these CVs like this, I wouldn't even need to look down. What I'll look at is University of Lagos. What did this person study? Where has this person worked? That's what I'm looking at, really. If those 2 sections catch my attention, then I can look at the other ones. But if those 2 sections are not relevant, I'll just go to the next CV. So your CV needs to appear friendly. It has to be reader friendly. Do not print back to back. Do not print front and back on your CV. Just print one page, then the next paper. I'm sure that's how we print, but sometimes people do front and back. There's no need, because I'm used to seeing one page printing. And I can flip your CV and I go from page 1 to page 3 and not see page 2. That's if your CV is hard copy paper. But if your CV is sent in soft copy, maybe via email or any other means, it means that I can see them one page after another. And then avoid spelling errors. Cross-check your CV. Let other people look at your CV. This happens especially if you prepared your CV yourself. You know, because you're the one that did your CV, you can be reading from your brain, thinking you're reading from the paper. As in, you can be looking on the screen. And what you're reading is actually from your brain, from your memory, because you're the one that did it. So you might not see some of the spelling errors. Now, imagine if this error is your email. It means we can't reach you. Imagine if this error is your phone number. It means we can't reach you. And this has happened multiple times in my experience. You see a CV, you like it, you want to contact this person. You call the phone number. There are 10 figures instead of 11. You send the email, you will get an error message telling you that it cannot be delivered. So please read it. If you're the one that did it, if you don't have somebody to help you, but these days it's easy for somebody to help you, even if the person is not with you. You can send it by email to somebody else to look at it and then tell you what to do, and then you can send it to WhatsApp to a friend or anybody to help you. And then I have received a CV that there is no email address, there's no phone number. You will be asking me, how did I get the CV? Somebody actually gave me the CV. Somebody is trying to recommend somebody and send me some CVs. Only for me to get this CV, I want to contact this person. There is no email. There is no phone number. So how do I contact you? So those kind of, you may think is a small error, but that may be a big error. Because if I can't contact you, so how would you come for the interview? How would you get the job if I can't reach you? And then conciseness. Do not bore the recruiter by listing every exam or activity you have done. Like we have discussed when we were talking about in the previous slides. The smaller, the better. What you need is a summary. You don't need, the most important information is what you need the recruiter to know. Be positive, highlight your outstanding achievements first, and be confident about them. So if you can have, maybe you may have received like 5 awards, but if you look at it, you see, okay, only 2 are relevant. You can include only the 2 without including the remaining. If you come for the interview and you want to still list out so you can say that verbally. And then don't lie about your age. You don't even need to include your age or exam details. Don't lie. If you lie in your CV, there's a way to find out. And you know, especially one thing about lying or exaggeration is that you don't even know what the recruiter is looking for. We may put out an advert and you now lie in the column where that is the highlighting factor for that role that we are looking for. Let's say, for instance, what example will you use now? We want somebody who lives in Lagos. We may not put it in the advert. Now you put a Lagos address and you apply because the job is in Lagos. But the advert did not say that we want somebody who lives in Lagos. Now we invite you. You are not able to come. Why? Because you need 2 days or 1 day to travel. You will still lose the opportunity because you cannot meet up. But assuming you have put that you stay in Port Harcourt, for instance, and I will see that you stay in Port Harcourt, and I will still invite you. And when I'm inviting you, I'll give you enough notice to come. So, and then one thing about lying is that when you lie, when it comes to the interview, you will need another lie to cover up. And if you are not able to cover up, you just appear somehow like somebody that cannot be trusted. So as much as possible, do not exaggerate and do not put any lie in your CV. I've had to interview someone that the experience she put in her CV, she didn't even work there at all. But she just put it so that the CV will have plenty experience. Now, the experience she put caught my attention and I wanted to know how she did what she did. But she couldn't answer the questions. At the end of the day, she told me that she didn't actually work there. And then, do you think I'll give her the job or I'll recommend her? Of course not. But if you had not put it and then I'll ask you other things, and maybe there are other things that you have done that can help you do this particular job that we're looking for. Okay, so now we look at the do's and don'ts of CV writing. Consistency with your format, your job title, the places you have worked, the city. Let it be in the same order. Let's say, for example, you wrote that I worked in A, B, and C clothing company, and then you put the date and you put address and then date. Now, when you want to list the other one, use the same format, name of company, date, and what you did. So if that is the format you're using, use the same one. So as I'm looking at it, I know that, okay, company, date, responsibilities, company, date, responsibilities. Not that you put the first one, company, date, responsibility, the second one, date, responsibility, company. So you're giving me a lot of time to interpret your CV. I don't need to interpret your CV. I need to look at it and understand it immediately. So don't give room for those kind of things. This happens. I know that in trying to put together your CV, you may do a lot of copy and paste. There's nothing wrong with that. If you do copy and paste, when you finish copying and pasting, make sure that the things you copied are the things that apply to you, your skill, your background. Then tailor it to match yourself. Don't just, churn it out the way you copied it. Try to make it to fit you as a person. Now, all bullets should be aligned and consistent. When you look at your CV, all the bullets should be in a straight line. The indentation should be the same. Proofread it. We have said this before. Spelling error, grammatical error, punctuation. Use the spell check of your computer. Ask someone to help you look through it. Your education should be in the first category on your CV, especially now that you don't have plenty of experience. We want to know, what did you study? Because really, that's your background. Before we now look at what you have done so far, we want to know what background do you have. So your education, and then the experience you've had so far. And then your work experience throughout your academic year also helps you. What did you do? Maybe you did some part-time job. What did you do in your IT, when you did your IT? Did you do any vacation job? Did you teach people maybe for GC and YA classes? Those kind of things help us to know, okay, this person can teach other people. Okay, this person, this gives us an idea of the soft skills that you have acquired. And then use action verbs and stay away from lengthy descriptions. Action verbs means something like, I developed a 6-page paper. Now, developed is action, telling us. But if you come and say, I put together, of course, they are still talking about the same thing. But the active verbs, makes it sounds better, and it also sounds more like something that will create results, which is what the employer is looking for. Now, use bullets to format and ensure the bullets are in results and accomplished format. Remember that we talked about the CAR format that you will use. Include leadership experience and significant athletic participation. Emphasis on significance. If they are relevant to what we are looking for, then it's fine. Now, don't elaborate designs on your resume. Let your CV be as simple as possible. Check typographical errors. Like I mentioned before, avoid falsifying or embellishing your skills. If you're not confident enough about a skill, don't put it. Don't include it. Be honest about what you have done in the past. Because, in your CV, you don't really know what will be the attention of the recruiter. Maybe your intention is so that my CV will be 2 pages. and then you go and include other thing, and then the recruiter finds that very interesting and wants to, wants you to discuss more on that when they invite you for the interview, only for you not to be able to discuss it. And the funny thing is that during an interview, sometimes even when you're answering and you're answering OP and the person that is interviewing is nodding, it doesn't mean that you're correct. They may even be nodding and be writing. It doesn't mean you're correct. And then some interviewers will really not tell you that what you have said is wrong. So please make sure that what is in your CV is the truth. Vague information. If any information is not clear, the interviewer will ask you, but what if you don't get the opportunity? Sometimes if it's not clear, the person will just go to the next CV. Don't use fonts that are too small. Don't use a font that is less than 10. My advice is use font size 12 so that your CV will be clear. It will be readable, and especially if it's a hard copy. If your CV is soft copy, I have it on my system. Of course, I can enlarge it, even if it's tiny. But if I have your CV as paper in front of me, I can't enlarge it. I will only end up squinting. And if I have 30 CVs and have to squint for the 30 of them, then there's a problem. And then don't add interests and activities that do not add value to your resume, like gisting. Gisting is not a hobby. Even if that is your hobby, you don't need to put it in your CV. Because if I see gisting, I will be thinking, okay, so if this person starts work, would they spend their time gisting at work? Would gisting make the person to be productive? So there are some hobbies that, even though that is your hobby really, but we don't need to know about it, because your hobby are the things you do when you're not at work. But don't give the impression that this thing might distract you. Nobody wants you to be distracted while you're at work. And then remember, recruiters read hundreds of resumes. I've already mentioned this thing. So anything that makes your resume hard to read, your CV may end up being disqualified. And then any activity achievement dated more than 5 years should really not be in your CV, except if it's a work experience. Like I said, your undergraduate achievements, like the activities, the awards you got when you were in undergraduate or maybe when you're in secondary school, they can be relevant now because you don't have enough achievement or work experience to show. But by the time you get to 5 years work experience, you have enough experience to show. So you may not need all the undergraduate experience anymore. So as time goes on, you will have to, be removing those ones one after the other. Okay, any questions so far on the CVs? If you have any questions, please, you can ask now. Mr. Ajibade, please, I need your help now for the questions.
What do you need me to do?
Just read out the questions if they are typed. Otherwise,
Okay.
they can raise their hands and speak direct. So
okay,
if
the questions
types, I will need you.
Okay, the questions are here. Abib Issa, what is the maximum amount of work experience to include in a resume?
There is no maximum amount of work experience for a resume. A resume is tailored to the role you're applying for, especially. So the way it works in a resume, first of all, it shouldn't exceed 1 or 2 pages. So at our level now, it should be 1 page for a resume. Then when you have more experience, you just choose the experience that is relevant. So assuming you are applying for the job
But don't think this one that you try to see me at Domino's as the one who's just behind. I'll still come to your house, you cook for me.
Hello, somebody's mic is not muted. Okay, so if, for instance, you're applying for a customer service rep, but you have worked before as a store officer, for a resume, that customer service will not show inside the resume because it's not directly, related to that job. So, but in your CV, even though you are applying for a customer service rep and you have not store officer, you can include it in your CV because CV is more like cumulative. But resume is what experience do you have that is directly relevant to this job we are talking about now? Those are the only thing that appears in your resume. But in your CV, you can add everything that you have done, all the experiences you have. That's why in CV, you can have more than 2 pages. But in resume, it should just be 2 pages maximum. Now, if your experiences are more than 2 pages, then you have to summarize them in such a way that they don't exceed 2 pages. I don't know if I've answered your question.
Okay, the second question, what is your take on including a reference on your CV or writing reference available on request?
Well, we are talking about what is applicable now. So for now, references available on request is acceptable. So really, you don't need to include your references, but you should have references. It's just that you don't include them in your CV. You provide them when the recruiter or the employer asks for them, because really they will ask for them. Once your discussion starts, moving towards them making you an offer, or they have made you an offer, they will ask for the references. So you should have references. You should have at least 2. You can even have up to 4, no problem. You should have at least 2. And please let them know that they are your references. Because if you provide a reference, you provide email and phone number, we will contact them. And you don't want a reference that you put down to not to remember your name, or to remember your name, but not to remember, or not to even be aware that they are your reference. So let your reference know that you are using them for job reference. Then in your CV, you can put available on request. Then when the requests come, you can now provide them. Even if you don't put reference in your CV, there's nothing wrong with that. Because when we need that information, we'll request for it. Because we only need your references after we have confirmed that you're fit for this job. So if we don't determine that you're fit for this job, we don't really need to see your references. That's why you can put available on request, or even if it's not in your CV, it's not really a problem. Because when we determine that you are fit for this role, we can now get somebody to reference for you.
Okay,
So another question.
Another question from Gabriel Oruku. May I know if it is true that work experience should come first after a professional summary and before education and others? Hello?
The question from Gabriel. Can you read it again, please?
May I know if it is true that work experience should come first after a professional summary and before education and others? Did you get that, ma?
Sorry, Mr. Ajibade, someone tried to call me and cut off my network. So you
Okay.
need to repeat the
okay, I should read
again. Yes.
Okay. May I know if it is true that work experience should come first after a professional summary and before education and others?
Now, what comes first? There's really no rule about what comes first. But what we are looking at is what is relevant. What promotes me first? Is it my work experience? Is it my awards? Is it my academic background? Now, the most relevant information should be on the first page. Now, which one comes first doesn't really matter, as long as my first page shows the relevant information. Usually, if you have an objective statement, you put it first, usually not more than 3 or 4 lines. And then your academic background, your course of study, what did you study? And then your work experience. Because whatever is relevant for that particular job is what you should put first. If an award that you received is relevant to that job, let's say, for instance, we are looking for a programmer. And really, what you studied is business administration, but you have CCNA, all these Microsoft additional certifications, and maybe you won a robotics competition in your final year. You can see that these other certifications and your award are relevant to this job of a programmer more than the business administration. Now, it doesn't mean that you not put the business administration. It means that immediately after the business administration, you put your CCNA and all of those things, and then you put your robotics award, your experience. This is because in administration, relate to computer program. But once I see all the other Microsoft and the IT skills, and I see that you have won a robotics competition, there's no way I will not contact you because you have done it. It's not just about the certificates now. You have actually worked with it. So you are the person we are looking for, even though you study business administration as a degree. So what you should be looking at is what tells me most. What is my, put your best leg forward. What is my best leg? That is what you put forward. Just make sure that your name and your contact details are the first things on your CV. So your name, who is this that we're looking at now? How do we reach this person? And then any other thing after that is what is my best leg? That's what I put forward. Now, there was was the last part of my CV. Thought at that time that, so immediately after my career objective, I put my experience. Then after that, I put my academic qualification. Now, one thing to note is that a CV is not a cast in stone document. It's a live document. It's a document that you need to update from time to time. So even though you have a CV now, that CV should not be what you'll be using next year. In fact, your CV should be changing 3 months, 6 months. Your CV should be updated. It doesn't mean that you throw away what is there, but in 3 months, in 6 months, there should be something to add to your CV. So that CV keeps getting updated. So as of today, your CV should be at least August 2020 compliant, because this is the first week of September. So you should have a CV that is compliant. I don't expect that you give me a CV today, and if I ask you for a CV in January and you give me the same CV, there should be something different after several months of your CV because you get experience every day. So the format of your CV also will change. Now, one other thing to note is that you should not have just one CV. You should have different versions of your CV. You should have a CV that is the cumulative everything. Then you should have another one that is your resume. And your resume is according to what you're applying for. So if you're applying for a marketing officer, your resume is, highlighting all the skills you have that will make you, succeed as a marketing officer. Then you have another one that is customer service officer for the same person. But what you're highlighting, you don't have to lie, but what you're highlighting and the experiences you're putting up are the one that will fit customer service for that one. So you have the one that is cumulative, that is everything. Then you now have other versions, especially if you are applying for several different offices. Now, this apply, let's say, if you study something like business administration, you study something like economics, you are open to several, you can do several things at the same time. Now, there are some background specific courses that if you study, you'll be expected to go in that line. But you may also decide to, okay, I don't want to really do what I studied. I studied it, but now I want to do something else. Then you have to tailor your CV, your resume to match that. That's why you need several versions. Okay, another question. But if you're not clear with my answer, please ask again.
The other question is, what is the relevance of LinkedIn profile link on CV?
Yes, please.
You get that, ma'am?
Well, for LinkedIn profile is I want to see how you are online. It's not compulsory at our level now. But if I was applying for a job, yes, as in the relevance of your LinkedIn profile on your CV. The main reason why your LinkedIn profile
I think she just got logged out. She'll be coming in soon. Yes. Okay, she's back. Your mic is muted, ma'am.
okay. Sorry about that. I didn't even know how long it has been muted. Okay, let me start all over again to answer. Okay, so for your LinkedIn profile, we check this all the time, especially for experienced hire. Now, if I need someone that has up to 5 years experience, I'll check their LinkedIn profile. I'll check them on Facebook. I'll check them on Instagram. Check them on Twitter if they are there. Now, on Instagram and Twitter, maybe the names we may not always have the names, but we always check you on LinkedIn, especially if you have experience. Now, that is on one side. On the other side, sometimes we don't advertise. We go to LinkedIn and look for people who are qualified in what you're looking for. We'll contact them directly. You need to have one, first of all, and then you need to grow it. It may not you may not be checked on LinkedIn for now, but also, I won't say that's 100% because whoever the recruiter is knows, they know what they're looking for and where they're looking for those people. I believe that if your connections on LinkedIn are less than 500, you're not on LinkedIn yet. That's my personal opinion. So for everybody I know, I tell them, grow your connection on LinkedIn to 500. That's when you are visible. Otherwise, you're just a number on LinkedIn. You are not even a member of LinkedIn. So if you have less than, because if you check people's profile, you see 500 plus. If it's 120, they'll say 120. That shows you that 500 is a benchmark. So if you're on LinkedIn, it's actually not difficult to grow your connections. So grow it, at least grow it with everybody that is on this platform now, and then grow it with your friends. So LinkedIn is important because recruiters want to know what you're doing online. And then when we check your social media profiles, we are looking for your other activities that may not be in your CV. So we are trying to check what kind of person are we looking at. So apart from what your CV has said, what other information can we get about you? That's why your LinkedIn profile is important. So whether it's on your CV or it's not on your CV, anybody who wants to check you out on LinkedIn, once they put your name, you will appear and they will check out what they want to find out. But it is not compulsory that it will be there, but it is a bonus if it's there. Okay. I don't know if that answers your question.
Okay. So another question is from Abila Aruno. Is it proper to include informal work experience on our CV and volunteer work one has done before?
From the beginning, I've already said that everything we're talking about is relevant. So if that informal work is relevant, yes, please include it. If your volunteer work is relevant, please include it. But we are talking about relevance. Does it add to my, what's the word now? Does it, promote my ability for this role? So even if you worked in your dad's shop, in your mom's shop, what were you doing? Let's say you were working as a cashier, but it's your mom's business. It means that you were counting money, you were communicating with customers. Those are the things you will be doing ordinarily if you were in a formal business. So it is relevant depending on the job you are applying for. So even though it's informal, it is an experience relevant to some kind of jobs that you will do if you were in a bigger organization. So even though it's informal, yes, you include it if it's relevant. Even if it's volunteer work, please include it if it's relevant. So please ask yourself, is this relevant? Does this show, will this help me to do this job that I'm applying for? And if you're not sure, please ask somebody. But always include relevant experience. It doesn't matter whether it's informal or volunteer. As a matter of fact, when you include a volunteer work that is relevant, it's even a boost because volunteer means you were not paid. And if you can do this job without being paid, we expect that you will do even much more now that we want to pay you. So it's a plus for you to do volunteer job. But let the volunteer job be something that is relevant to what you're applying for. Thank you. I hope that answers the question.
Another question from Timothy Williams. I was given a certificate of outstanding performance for leadership experience, but it has been misplaced. Can I still add it?
Okay, outstanding performance. Well, I think you can add it, but you cannot, but don't add it as a certificate since you do not have the certificate anymore. But you can write something like recognized for outstanding performance. If you put it under certificate, I would want to see it. But if you just say that you were recognized for outstanding performance during maybe in your department or during NYC, so even if you don't have the certificates, no problem. But if you put it as a recognition, it means that you don't need to provide it. If I want to vet it, of course, if I really want to find out, I can find out. It was given to you by somebody, right? If I want to find out from that person, all I need to ask you, okay, well, it was given to you by your department. I can call your department, even without asking you for the department contact. Like, for instance, when we ask for reference, in my work, for 0 to 5 years experience, we always want to contact the school to confirm that this certificate is theirs. And especially for those who don't even have experience at all. Then if your experience is more than 5, or if you graduated more than 5 years ago, we may not do that. We'll just contact your previous employer because we know that maybe your records may have been misplaced. All of us went to schools in Nigeria. We know that those things are possible. Now, even if, for instance, if you have 2 years experience or you graduated 3 years ago and you did not give me a reference of your school, I will contact your school still. You understand? So if I want to verify anything on your CV, I will still do it, even without letting you know. I'll contact your school. All I need to do is write a letter address it to the HOD. I don't need to know the HOD's name. If I address it to the HOD, send it by courier, it will land on the HOD's table. And I'll say, this student said he graduated from this school. So yeah, please confirm that he graduated. That's all I need to know. I'm not asking any other question. Confirm that he graduated and then confirm that he graduated with this class of degree that he said. And they always respond. because it gives the university pleasure to see that their products are doing well in society. So whenever we send those kind of letters, we get responses. So even if you say you were recognized by your department, but you don't have the letter, if I want to, and sometimes you don't know who knows who and who knows who. It may just be a phone call to confirm. It may not even be a long process. So if you really want to include it, you can just put it as a recognition without the certificate. But if you have the certificate, I hope that answers your question.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Haruna?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, the next question. Please, Mark, can you please expatiate, I guess, more on the objective statement in civil writing?
Okay. The objective is really a summary of what is your career goal, what is your experience so far. So it's just like a punchline, something you write to catch the person's attention. It's not even compulsory that it must be there, but sometimes it's good for it to be there. So when you don't have experience or plenty of experience to say what you have done before, you can say what you look forward to do, like your career statement. Saying that you're an accountant and this is what you seek to do. You can say it in a form of you seek to work in this kind of environment, or this is the career path you want to go through, or this is what I have done. Now, if you have an experience, you can just say, okay, something, your background, I'm an accountant, I've done this and this, I have this kind of skills, I would like to work in this kind of environment. Before you say it, 3 sentences have gone, 4 sentences have gone. So you can go in any direction. The direction can be the direction of your goal, your career goal. You can go in the direction of your experience. That's what you have done. That means showing your skills in terms of, I already have this, so that means I can do this. So it's not something that you just put there, and it just becomes. So it's something that you can always, update from time to time. It's something that you can update. But let it be relevant. Let it be something that, says, that's something that is positive to your image in terms of that job. Remember what we are talking since, relevance. Anything you put in your CV has to be relevant. It has to promote you for that job, because the main thing is, the reason why you're putting out that CV, the reason why you're sending in the application is to get the job. So whatever you're doing has to be in relation to that job. It doesn't have to be because other people are doing it or it looks fine. No, it has to be that it is relevant first before we start talking about how fine is or how good it looks. Let it be relevant first before we start looking at those other things. So if you don't, it's good for you to have 2 or 3 sentences. So if you don't have an experience to say, now the experience could even be something you have done as informal level or volunteer level, or skills that you have. Let's say you're an accountant, but you have very good IT skills. You can capture that in 2 or 3 sentences and put that as your career statement of objective. You can call it any name you want. There are different names, how you capture it. So if it's your career objective, you can put career objective. If it's statement of purpose, you can put it statement of purpose, and just capture that punchline, 3 or 4 sentences that that promote you as an employee or a potential employee. I don't know if that answers the question.
Okay. Another one is from Olaide Adebimpe Obajimi.
Okay.
For someone who stayed in a mom's shop for years and wants to apply for customer service, how can that be packaged in your CV?
Okay. You stayed in the shop for years. What were you doing when you were in the shop? So that thing you were doing when you were in the shop, you need to capture it. These things, when you were in the shop, you need to capture your mom's shop as a business. What is the business name of your mom's shop? You need to capture it as a business. So you put it as the way you put that you worked with ABC clothesline. Even if that shop is a provision shop, maybe there's a name for it. You put the name there as a business. You don't need to put in your CV that is your mom's shop. If when you get to the interview, you are asked, you can say that is your mom's shop during the interview, not in your CV. You put, what were you doing there? Do you interface with customers? Do you collect money? Do you go to the bank? What and what were you doing when you were at that shop? Do you go to bring goods from the supplier? Do you receive from supplier? Do you do stock taking? These are the things that people do normally in big organizations. And in one way or the other, you would have done these things in your mom's shop. So don't look at it that, oh, I was in my mom's shop. Look at it in every day I go to work in my mom's shop. What do I do? So you sit down and take biro and paper and start writing, or you can write it anywhere and start writing. When you come to the shop, what do? I'm sure you attend to customers. You may count money. You know, all those things. Those are work task. Those are responsibilities. So capturing it is actually not complicated. You can capture it, but you need to, confirm when you were there, what were you there as? Were you there as cashier? Were you there as customer service person? Were you there as store manager? So now, if you can tell yourself, okay, I was there as a salesperson. If you don't really know, like maybe sometimes you may be confused on how to capture it, just go online. Just Google responsibilities of a sales officer. You will look at it and see anything that you see there that applies to what you were doing. Don't just copy it though, because if you copy it, you may copy what you did not do. So look at it and say, what in these things that I'm seeing online, what applies to what I was doing in my mom's shop? You just take that, borrow that sentence from them and put it in your CV. If you were working as a customer service, you can just go online and Google responsibilities or duties of a customer service officer. And you look at it, you see, okay, I did this part. Maybe you have 20 options. And out of that 20, you did 3 of them. So you take that 3 and put in your CV. Now, you do this because, but if you are able to just sit down and write it, then you don't really need to go online. But if you are not able to formulate it, then you go online and look for those things that you did. And before you know it, you have 6, 7 things that you were doing. I'm sure you were doing plenty of work in your mom's place. And there was a start time, like when you started working there. You need just the way you put other employers. You put the business name and you started there January 2017. To if you're still there till date, or if you're not there till August 2019, you just the way you list for other companies, that's the way you list it, because your mom's business is a business. So there's nothing informal about it. The only thing informal about it is that you probably did not get an employment letter. You may or may not have a salary for you as a staff, but really what you were doing there are formal activities for a business. Thank you.
Okay. From Ifedayo Adebanjo, are therapeutic skills relevant in a CV tailored for an HR position?
Okay, when you say therapeutic skills, I need you to elaborate on it, so I know exactly what you mean.
Okay, ma. Talking about therapeutic skills, I'm talking about maybe psychotherapy, like counseling, and others of such line, ma.
Okay, if they are relevant to HR.
Yes, ma.
Yes, they are very relevant to HR. Very, very relevant. Because in HR, you will counsel people. In HR, you need to understand the psychology of people, really. Because in HR, you are standing in the middle with the employees on the right and the employer on the left. And you are in both camps, because you are representing the employer for the employee, you are representing the employee before the employer. So you need to be very, very objective. So you actually need a lot of psychotherapy. Yes, they are very relevant. So if it's certification, you can list them if it's for HR related roles. Yes, you can list them.
Okay, then
are there any other questions?
yes, But because of time, maybe we might just take this last one and you continue.
Okay.
Then can online courses
come
and webinar that are relevant to a role be included in a CV? And how can informal experiences be tailored in a CV?
Yes, you can include webinars and online courses. Now, for online courses, many of them, they have certificates. So you actually have evidence. For webinars, some of them don't have certificates. So you might not have much evidence to show, but that is not a problem. But you can list it for informal, you can list informal experience as part of your experience, because really there are things that you can prove. Like I answered in the previous one of the last questions, the only thing that makes it informal is because we did not do, maybe you did not do application, we did not do employee orientation for you, we don't have a staff record for you, so it is informal. But the experience you have there are part of your experience, and there are experiences that you can use in other places when you move from that informal place. So yes, you can list your informal experience as part of your experience. You can list webinars as long as they are all relevant to what you're looking for. And as long as they don't make your CV to be too many pages, you can, because we want to know, what have you done? What have you been exposed to? So now that you don't have plenty, so to say, formal work experience, you can list all those things to say, okay, oh, I have done this online. I have done this, even though it is in a smaller environment. It tells me that you can, because you have done this before, you can do it again. So yes, please include every relevant webinars. If it's a webinar, include the title, the date. Because if I want to verify, I can always, contact the people, the organizers, and they will let me know who and who were part of the webinar. So as long as they are relevant, please include them. Okay, so our time is really fast spent. So I think we should go to the cover letter and then come back to questions. The cover letter won't take us a lot of time. So we can continue with our questions. So after that. So after the cover letter, if you still have CV questions and we have time, we can continue answering them. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay, so I'm going to share back my screen. Okay. Okay, so a cover letter is a letter you send to accompany your CV. It can be in hard copy form or in soft copy, depending on how you're sending your CV. So if you're sending your CV hard copy, that's a printed copy, the paper, that's the one that is the hard copy. Your cover letter should accompany it. And cover letter usually shouldn't be more than 1 page. So it's a letter of introduction that highlights your key accomplishments and fits for a job opening. Do not overlook it because it's a great asset. In fact, in some job adverts, you will see they will request, send your application and offer letter. So it offers you a chance to explain your particular interests and your qualification. And it must be tailored for each job. So don't have a cover letter that is for everything, because in your cover letter, you have to mention what you are applying for. So if you applied for customer service and you're applying for marketing officer next, it means that you have to change that to fit the job, the current job role. Okay. what's going on? I want to change my slide, but it's not changing. Okay. So a cover letter tells the employer the type of position you're seeking and exactly how you're qualified for that position. You can also explain things that your resume cannot. Or, now that we're saying your resume or your CV should not exceed this number of time. So a cover letter is just another opportunity for you to, highlight and other things in your, in your application. Now, these are the tips. Each cover letter must be tailored to each job because sometimes you even need to address it specifically. Sometimes you need to, mention the name of the organization. You need to mention the job role. So that's why you need to tailor it. You address your cover letter to a particular person or at least a particular position. If you know the name of the person, you write it. The way you address a normal cover letter is a formal letter. So the way you write a formal letter, that's how you do it. You address it to a position if you do not know the person, but always address it to somebody. Either the person's position, the job title, or the person's name. Grab the reader's attention by writing an appealing first paragraph. So the first paragraph is really your catch point. Highlight your 3 to 4 key accomplishments, your skills, your experiences. So it's not like you copy and paste your CV. No, it's just like a summary of some of the things in your CV and maybe 1 or 2 other things that are relevant. And avoid all mistakes, including typographical misspelling, grammatical errors. We keep saying this, please. There are some people that cannot stand error. There are some people that once they see one error, they will not read again. There are some people that will still read. But what this tells us is that you don't give attention to details. That is, and maybe in your CV, you have even written it that, you give attention to details. And in that same CV, you have typographical error. So that shows us that what you say and what you have in your CV and what we are seeing, they are not the same thing. Okay. So whenever possible, relate yourself to the company. Never include negative information. End your letter by requesting for an interview. And your cover letter should be kept under 1 page. 1 page, if you're typing it should not be more than 1 page. Remember that your CV is attached, so you don't want too many information. If it's by email, it should even be smaller if it's by email. Now, this is a sample of cover letter. If you look at the screen, so there's the name of the person, the company, the Cornerstone Investments, allows the address, just the way you write the formal letter, and then you state it out. Now, I want us to critically look at this letter and tell us what is missing. Now, your cover letter should address what? What are you talking about? What are you applying for? Who are you? You talk about yourself and your qualifications and maybe your academic background. Why do you want to apply for this job? Or why do we need to take you or consider? Why do you want to work with them? So you should address why you want to work with them and why they should want to work with you. So all these things should be there. Now, if you look at this, for a formal letter, something is missing here. Can somebody tell us what is missing? If you consider that this is a formal letter, assuming that we want to, if this was an email, this is fine. But if we are printing this, something is missing. Can somebody tell us? Can somebody notice it and let us know? Or write it so that Mr. Ajibade can help us read it out. Can you notice anything that is missing from a formal letter? Anyone?
Some people are already typing in here. I can see Agbeyo Samuel saying title, Ahmed Mushi Idowu title, Abdurrahman Oyinda title, then Ezekiel Awususi job title, Abdullah Aruna the sender's address, Olaide Adebimpe Obajimi address, Ogenetega title, sender's address and date. So those are some of the
Okay.
comments.
Yeah, okay. I can see that we are observant. Yes, you are correct. If this was a hard copy letter, yes, there's no date and there's no sender's address. If this was an email, you wouldn't need to write date because the email, when it arrives on your mail, there will be date and time on it. Now, there's no topic. I don't know if that is what you mean by the title. After the dear Mr. Ajay, there should be a topic of why maybe application for then the job title before. Yes, we are. So if you look at this, you can see that the person talked about himself, the position insurance broker is there, a graduate from University of Benin, a degree in marketing is there, and then why he wants to work there. And then I have maturity skills, ability to embark on a career in insurance brokering. And I would like to do this in Lagos, my home state. So you can see that assuming this person, the sender's address, let's say the sender's address is Benin City. But for him to have said my home state, it means that this person is not new to Lagos. So even if his address is Benin, I know that he's a local in Lagos. So I will still consider him for this role because he's a Lagosian. Now, for Lagos to be his home state, probably he can speak Yoruba. I will take it, that he may be able to. So if that is some of the things I require for this job, then I will consider this person. And you see that he's saying, I'll follow up with a letter. I'll follow up this letter with a phone call and see if I can arrange a time to meet with you. So he's requesting for an interview. Now, you may not say you follow up with phone call. You may actually request them that you are available to meet with them to further discuss on your suitability. You're available to meet with them at their earliest convenience. Your cover letter is telling the recruiter, the employer, that you are available for an interview so that they will consider. Now, if this is a hard copy, you need to emphasize that the CV is attached. Even for a soft copy, you also need to let them know that the CV is attached. If it's a hard copy, the CV is attached. So you need to also mention that it is attached so that this person will not mistaken, assuming it's a hard copy and somehow your CV falls off. We know that, okay, there's an attachment, then we'll look for it. Now, there are times when you send cover letters, there are many people who, maybe because they are anxious or maybe just mistake, and they don't attach their CVs. So you can also, in those cases, we can ask you to resend your CV. Now, some employers ask for your cover letter. If they ask for your cover letter, please send your cover letter as a Word document or PDF document. It means that you have to send it and then attach it the way you attach your CV. That's if the employer asks you to send in your application and cover letter. It means they want to see the cover letter. Now, if they did not ask you, if they just say send in your application, then your cover letter can be the body of your email. Now, if they say send in your application and cover letter, then you have to send in 2 documents, which is your CV and your cover letter. But please don't send an empty email. There must be something on the body of your email. You can still put your cover letter or maybe a shorter version of your cover letter on your email, the body of your email, while you put something that looks like what we have on our screen on the attachments. So how to send your CV and cover letter via soft copy? Soft copy means that you're sending it by email. It means that we cannot touch it. That's why it's soft. So attach the CV as a document. Type the cover letter as the body of your email. If the employer, that is, I just explained it earlier, if the employer did not say you should send in your cover letter, then your cover letter should be the body of your email. So it introduces your CV. But please make sure that whatever you have written, say that they should direct them to find attached your CV, whether you're writing it as soft copy or hard copy. Then if the email did not specify who to address it to, we have mentioned it before, address the email to the hiring manager, head of human resources. And then close your letter. The way you just write it the way you write a formal letter, whether you're doing email or you're doing hard copy. Then direct them to please find attached. But if the advert says send in your application or send in your CV and cover letter, send your application and cover letter, then you must do your cover letter on a document, Word document or PDF document, and then attach it the same way you attach your CV. Please take note, because there are some employers that want to see what you have written in your cover letter. Sometimes it's not really because you have written in your cover letter. They just want to see how you write. You know, there are so many ways we check, you know, we assess somebody. We just want to see how you write English, how you compose your sentences. That is what, because everything in your cover letter, at least most of it is in your CV. So for me to ask you to send your cover letter, I just want to see if the job requires you to do a lot of writing. I just want to see how you write, how you compose a letter. That is what I'm looking for. So I will need to see how you write. That's why it is requested to sometimes. So hard copy means you're sending the paper, or you're dropping it by yourself, or you're posting it. For hard copy, you attach the CV, you staple your cover letter onto the CV so that it will not fall off. And then if you're sending hard copy, it is advisable to put it inside an A4 envelope. The reason is that the more you fold it, your CV, the creases will, you know, after time, you know, that will occupy those places where you bent your CV and they don't look neat. So you use A4 paper. That's the envelope, A4 envelope, the envelope that is the same size as the paper, so that you don't need to fold the paper when sending it. But luckily for us, most of the job adverts these days are by email. But there are times when you need to send in hard copy. So at those times, make sure that what you're sending is a clean copy. I advise people, if you can print all the copies, please print them, because some photocopies are not clear. But if you can see a good photocopy is okay, so that it will look neat. You don't want somebody to disqualify your CV without looking at it because it doesn't look tidy. They don't even look at your qualification. It determines whether you're qualified or not. So you don't want that to happen to your application. You want somebody to at least say, okay, oh, this person does not fit what I'm looking for. It's better that this person disqualifies you because they don't think you are fit. But let them not disqualify you because your CV is crumpled. Okay, so we are back to questions again. So you can bring on all your questions, both the one for cover letter and the one for CVs.
So, the question there is from Faidat Badamosi. Are you saying it is compulsory to add a title or topic from the numerous sample cover letters I have seen? I have not noticed the title or the topic.
No, I said if your cover letter is hard copy, that means you're printing the paper. If you're printing the paper, yes, you should add a title. If you're submitting it as a hard copy, as you're submitting the printed form of it, please include a title, which is application for whatever job title you're applying. Now, if you are sending it soft copy, which means you're sending it by email, remember that your email has a subject line. There's a place for subject. That's the title. So that is the place you put application for. And then sometimes the advert says what you should put there. Sometimes the advert will say, use the job title as application, as your subject. Sometimes the advert will attach a code to the job title, and ask you to put the code as your job title. So that stands in for your title as soft copy. So it is not in the body of the mail, but is in the subject of the mail, which replaces the title. Now, even if the advert does not give you any guidelines, please always include a title on that subject of the email. Don't send an email with a blank title or a blank body. Always put application for customer service officer. Or even if you don't want to write long something, just put customer service officer on the title. And then you put the short version of your cover letter on the body of the mail. Now, if you are applying soft copy, you only put the title on the subject bar, not on the email body itself. So I don't know if that answers your question, but if you're doing hard copy, then yes, you need to put a title because it's a formal letter. Okay, next question. I think we have time for questions, so let's go ahead. Mr. Ajibade, next question. Help us, please.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Okay, I think we'll go back to the questions from the CV writing.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. Ma'am, when sending out a CV to a recruiter, is it appropriate to send the CV in a PDF format or MS Word format?
Okay, sometimes the advert says in what format it should be. It says whether it is Word or PDF. Whenever there's an advert that specifies any guideline, please follow that guideline because they might have reasons for those guidelines. But when they did not say the guideline, you can use either Word or PDF. Anyone is fine. However, PDF is advisable. The reason is that if your version of Microsoft is not the same as the receiver, it might affect the format of what you have sent. For instance, I'm using Microsoft Windows 10. If the person receiving it is using Windows 8, it may affect it. Excuse me, I need to drink water. Okay, sorry about that. Just give me a few seconds.
Sorry, Mom.
Okay. Okay, so if you're not using the same Windows, when the other person that is using Windows 8 receives it, the format may scatter. Like all the formatting you did, all the information will be received, but it will scatter a bit. But if you're using PDF, it stays in that format. So your line 1 becomes line 1 when they receive it. As long as they have PDF, they receive it the way you have sent it. But when it is in Microsoft Word, if they are using the same version of Microsoft as you, it remains the same. But if they are using a different version, it is likely that it will change. Now, changing does not mean that any information will be lost. No, it just means that the information will be scattered a bit. That's just. So you may lose the formatting that you have done. So really, you can just have your CV in Word and PDF. Then it is advisable to send it in PDF, except if they request for your CV in Word. Please always follow the guideline that the advert has said. So if they say send in PDF, send in PDF. If they say send in Word, if they say send your cover letter, then also attach your cover letter as a document. Even though you will put it as the body of your mail, also include it as an attachment. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Next question, please. Mr. Ajibade, are you there?
Okay, I think there is a question here.
Okay.
If someone has a professional certificate, what subsection or section would it be categorized in a CV? And also, are you saying it isn't relevant to include one's WAEC and primary school details in a CV?
No, I said you can include your WAEC. You don't need your primary school details. You can include WAEC, but you don't need primary school because as part of your employment, we will require you to bring your WAEC certificate. So please include your WAEC, but primary school is really not relevant. Now, for your professional certificates, if you have only one professional certificate, let's say you have ICANN, you can include it under your education if you have just one. But if you have more than one, then you can put them separately under professional certifications. Then you can now put those ones separately because you have more than one. But if you just one, you put it under your education. Now, if you got it after graduation, which is most likely, then you still use the normal order that we use in listing everything in reverse chronological order. So if you graduated 2017 and you got certified ICANN 2019, so it means if you're putting it under your education, it means that ICANN comes first before your accounting degree. But if you are putting professional certificates, your professional certificates can actually go back. It can actually go backwards or it can come forward. Now, what determines whether it goes backwards or forward is if you have enough experience to show. If you don't have enough experience to show, then you need to put your professional certificates forward. That means after your education, you put your professional certificates because it shows that I have the skills, even though I don't have the experience. But if you have plenty experience, which means I may not really be looking at your professional qualifications, then you can actually put your professional qualifications after you have written your experience because really your experience is what the employer is looking for. They're looking for what you have done before because that is what tells them that you can do what they are looking for now. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Okay, is there any other question?
There's another question here.
Okay.
But some employers don't specify the file type for your CV. In that case, which is preferable to send? Because I heard from a good source that most ATS software do not read PDF docs. How true is that?
Well, most of them read both PDF and except if it's a specific one that is not able to read PDF. And then in those cases, they might tell you to send it in Word format. But really, it is advisable to send in PDF. But there's nothing wrong with you sending it in Word, really. So it depends on what you want. I always send out my documents in PDF. If you send it out in PDF, if they are manually checking it, it won't be a problem. If their own version of ATS does not go through PDF, I'm sure they will put it in the advert, send in Word format. Because the ATS is supposed to be able to look through both PDF and Word. There's nothing wrong with sending Word. The only reason why you don't want to send it is if your version of Microsoft is different, it may scatter. So your CV on the other side, when it goes to the person taking it, it may look untidy. Meanwhile, you have finished arranging your CV. And because of different versions of Word, then it scatters. If I'm using 10 and you're using 8, if you send it, because my own is higher, it will still retain its version. But once you're sending to the one that is lower than your version, it will scatter. So that's just the reason. But all the information they need will still be there. It's just that it may not look as appealing as you presented it. and PDF retains your format. So that's why it is advisable to send in PDF. So does that answer your question?
Yes, ma. Thank you, ma.
All right. Do we still have another question?
I think the question that this question was already answered when someone asked how to package a CV with the experience of her working in another shop. So this person is
Oh, okay.
asking, in a situation in which an individual works to his or her mom's store selling stuff, what is the relevance of company's name in such situation as this? Or say, what can a person write as organization's name? And I think that was answered that the name of the business should be where you work, like any other name, like you work for
Yes.
PwC, like you work
Yes.
for KEC. So the name of the company, if your mom's shop is Agbeyo and Co. Limited and things like this, so it should be Agbeyo and Co. Limited, as the case may be. Then list the experiences
Exactly.
you gain from working there under that.
Yes,
So
that's
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 majorly
the
about
answer.
that.
Because most small shops actually have name. You sometimes you even see, like when you are passing shops, you see mommy twin stores. That's the name of the business. You see Mama Tunji stores. That is the name of the business. So even if it's my Mommy Tunji stores that is there, write it as Mommy Tunji stores, write that it is in Surulere, write what you were doing there as your experience. Yes, it was an informal work experience, but you were doing something there. So those things that you were doing, you still put them down there. Just the same way you would have put down for a big organization. You still put it down like that. And it can be verified. So it's not like you're putting, I guess the only reason why we are concerned is because we did not formally become an employee. That's why we are looking at it that it's not an experience, but it's actually a very good experience. Because in that situation where it's your mom's shop, you actually you don't just work there as an employee. You work there as a stakeholder in that business. So you cannot even take the things that are happening there lightly. You work as a part owner. So both your heart and your body is inside the business. You know that if this business falls, there might not be food next week in our house. So that one is even very relevant for a recruiter, because this one is you are a stakeholder, you're part of the business. As against when the business is big, you know that anyhow my salary will come for this month. So for that one, you can't do it anyhow, because if you don't sell, no money. So it's very relevant, and you treat it the way you will treat another organization.
There's another
Is there?
question here.
Okay.
If I want to apply for a HR job, but all my previous experiences are probably teaching and sales, how do I tailor my CV to fit into the job I'm applying for?
Okay. The job you're applying for. Okay, teaching and sales. Where you highlight what were you doing in teaching, because there might be times when in HR you may have to teach somebody something. When you're doing your employee orientation, you are teaching them something. We don't call it teaching, but what you're doing there is teaching. In training, training is part of HR. That's teaching. So they are relevant so you just that, how are you able to highlight these things? In teaching, what did you do when you were teaching? How many people did you teach? So you just highlight what you did in teaching, really. Highlight what you did in sales. Because even in HR, you're selling the company policy to your staff. You need to sell to the management the welfare of the staff. You need to sell to staff the policies of the company. So it may not directly apply if you look at it at the general level. But you can see that the skills you acquired when you were doing sales, what did you achieve as a salesperson? Did you increase sales? Did you increase the ease of doing business? Did you save money? One key area for HR is saving money. They don't really directly sell the company products, but they sell the company ideas, the vision, the mission. They sell it to the staff. Now, one thing about increasing sales, it tells us that you are able to meet targets. Meeting target is meeting target. Doesn't matter what you're doing, whether you're doing sales, customer service, HR, accounting. Meeting target is meeting target. So were you able to meet your sales target? If you can meet target in one place, you can meet it in another place, even if the job roles are reversed. So you need to highlight your responsibilities as a salesperson and your achievements as a salesperson. Your responsibilities in teaching and your achievements in teaching. So how many people did you teach? What did you, what was your class size? Let's say if you're teaching, you are teaching in a secondary school, how many classes did you teach? Let's say you taught mathematics for SS3, for instance, and during the year when you taught mathematics, there was no failure in mathematics for WAEC. That is an achievement. And it shows out that you can actually apply this. You can transfer knowledge. That's what it shows us. And if you can transfer knowledge, you can transfer knowledge. It doesn't matter what you're doing, whether you're doing HR or accounting. So highlight these things as what you did, then highlight what you achieved. That will help us know what you can do when you are doing HR. Because HR also involves sales and teaching, even though they are not directly obvious. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, we'll be taking this last question because our time is fast spent.
Okay.
During my NYSC, I was posted to an establishment where I didn't do anything practically. So instead, I used the period to learn some computer-related skills. How do I reconcile the work responsibility with training?
Okay, the work responsibility. Well, what it means that if you did not do anything practically, then you may want to use what you learned in the computer skills you learned. You may want to highlight those ones, what you can do with the skills you have acquired in the IT skills that you have learned. What you can do for the NYSC is just to state your responsibilities, what your job title should have been if there's a job title in your NYSC, and then highlight what you have learned in your IT. Because if you highlight your experience with NYSC, you may not be able to answer the questions that will follow. So you can just list it and then highlight what you have learned in the IT skills and what you are able to do with the IT skills that you have learned. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
All right.
I think that's all.
Do we still have questions?
Okay, I think I missed one. Okay. What about self-owned business? More like an online business selling selling clothing. Can one include this in a CV?
Yes, you can include your personal business. But the trick there is don't come and write that you are the CEO of the business. Because if you're the CEO, what are you looking for customer service officer for? You are a business owner now. You understand? So, but what we want to see is the skills you have learned running that business is what is relevant. So if the business has a name, you put the name, just the way you list every other business. You don't even need to say that you're the owner. When you come for the interview, you can now say you are the owner. If you are asked, you don't need to say you are the owner. Just list it, business name, start as in your responsibilities there, your achievements there, start time and end time. If it's still current, from so time to current, from January 2020 till date, that means it's still current. And then you list what you do there. You relate with customers. You source for products. You solve customer problems. You attend to customer inquiries. You do the bookkeeping. You do the accounting, all those things. So you still list it following the format for listing if you were just working for the company. So when you are listing it, remove the fact that you are the owner. List it as a company where you work. When you come for the interview, then you can tell us that you are the owner. I don't know if that answers your question. And even if you want to list a job title on that self-owned business, please, I know that we like answering CEO. Don't put CEO. You are the CEO, yes. But you know that the head of an ant is not the same with the toe of an elephant. The toe of an elephant is still bigger than the head of an ant. So that's why when you say CEO, the CEO that we know that will come to our mind is big. And we'll be wondering, why would a CEO be looking for a job? So there are so many job titles to put in that regard with what you are doing really. Because at that point, your business is still a small business. Really, the job you are doing is not the job of your CEO. Even though you occupy the role of a CEO, the job you're doing really, you'll be doing marketing, you'll be doing customer service, record keeping, and all of that. So from all those roles, you can pick out the job title to include in your CV using the normal format. Now, it's not like you want to hide the information. When you get to a discussion point, remember that the reason why you're applying is to get the opportunity for that interview. Nobody will employ you, send you an offer letter because they saw your CV, or because they saw your offer letter. But they will now invite you for further discussion. Now, when you come for that discussion, that's the interview, you can, talk about that this business is your own and you're the one that run it. It's actually a good thing. It means that you are not an idle person. You are entrepreneurial, you are industrious, you're hardworking, you're disciplined. There are so many things to deduct from that. So it's actually a plus, but don't put that you're a CEO. It can be a turn-off for whoever is shortlisting that CV.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
No, I think that's all the questions for now.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mark, for this wonderful session. In fact, we really gained a lot from the session, and from the comment section, the participants are already saying thank you. We're able to break it down and give the acts about writing your CVs and your interview. And concerning the last point you made about you being self-employed and writing CEO on your CV, I actually have a first-hand experience in that. I was running a laundry when looking for a job, early days of looking for a job, and I wrote CEO of my laundry. I wrote it there boldly. I accept the first stage of the interview, the second stage. So we're supposed to meet with the CEO at the final stage. So he was reading, he was impressed we're having that call. So he just got to the CEO. Oh, you're a CEO. I said, no, it's a small scale business. So I just told him that he said, will I have time for their own job since I'm a CEO of this? So I had to explain that out. But out of everybody, I was the only one that, out of everybody that was scheduled to meet the CEO, were 5, I was the only person that didn't get a text message to actually come back.
Okay.
So I went there on another day and I said I wanted to meet the CEO. I asked him that, what did I do wrong? That because I was just like, out of 5 people, how come I wouldn't get that message? And even from the interviewers, it seemed like I was somehow the favorite. When you have this perception from those interviewers, like this guy is doing well and this. So he told me that
you did well in the interview.
Yeah. So you're a CEO, how come you are applying for this job and it seems you won't have time to do our job? And that's how I didn't get that job, because of that simple mistake on that CV that I wrote and things like that. These are some of the learning
so you can see, like I said initially, that the idea behind a lot of these things that we said do not put in your CV is that we don't want to distract the interviewer or the recruiter or the employer. We want to focus the discussion on the relevance of my skills to this job role. So you don't want other things to come and distract this discussion. That's why there are some of those things that we keep saying relevance, because if you distract that recruiter, you may lose the opportunity. If you distract them, you may not get that interview because you have CEO on your CV, not because you're not qualified. So just always look at your CV and say, is this irrelevant? Is this irrelevant? When you are not sure, please ask somebody. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very, very much, Ma. Let's allow you to go. We'll be back by 1 o'clock for the interview skills class. She will be taking the class too for the interview skills class. So you have her throughout today. I think you should thank her sparing her time for us today. We are taking about 5 hours of our time today, and we are really thankful for that. Thank you very much. You can leave the training for now, so you can come back by 1 for that, so we don't use up your time, so you can rest for that session.
All right. See
hello,
you at
everybody.
1.
Yes, see you at 1. Hello, everybody.
Hello, sir.
Yeah. So you know how we do it. You are supposed to go back to the feedback form and fill all the feedback form that you are supposed to fill. And some people didn't fill the assessment form before starting today's session. And some people are yet to fill their feedback forms. So for the mind orientation, one person is here to fill the feedback form. But the thing is, I've not really seen him attend any class anyway. Then for the job hunting strategy class, Amarachi Unoli is here to fill. Is Amarachi here? Okay, she's not here. Faidat Badamosi, you are here to fill for the job hunting strategy, your feedback. I can see you are here. Faidat, can you speak up, please? Hello, Faidat Badamosi.
Yes, sir. I'm with you, sir.
You are
My
here to fill
network
your
is
job.
bad.
You are here to fill your job hunting strategy plan.
Okay, I'm going to do that right now.
You are here to fill the feedback form. Why is that?
I have filled it. I filled all the forms, even the pre-assessment for this session.
We didn't get it. We didn't get your feedback form for job hunting strategy session. So kindly go back to that and make sure that you fill it, or else you'll be removed for the next session. Morufat Mustafa. Morufat, I think she was here earlier. Morufat, are you there? Morufat, I can see you are there. Hello, Morufat Mustafa, can you speak up, please? Okay, then Abib Issa, you didn't fill for the job hunting strategy. Abib. Hello, Abib
Yes,
Issa.
sir.
You didn't
Yes,
fill
sir.
for the job hunting, you didn't fill your feedback for the job hunting strategy.
I filled the form yesterday, sir.
You filled the form yesterday.
Yes, I filled it.
The collation that we have is for this morning before the start of this session, and it's not there.
I know I filled it yesterday. Maybe I have to fill it back again.
Please kindly go back to that form and fill. If we still find your name before the next session, then you will be yanked off the platform, please.
Okay, sir.
So, personal development and career plan session. Amarachi is yet to fill. Amarachi Unoli is yet to fill. Also, we have Oluwafemi Moses Taiwo. You didn't fill for the personal development and career plan. Oluwafemi, I can see you are here. Oluwafemi Taiwo.
Yes,
So why is that?
I was online. Stop this.
You did what? Hello, Olufemi.
Sorry, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Oh yes, so I wasn't like halfway into the session, my phone went off. I didn't have power.
And what was the instruction when you can't finish up on Zoom or you have network issues? What was the instruction?
My phone went off completely. So I might have skipped informing a staff, but I alerted my team when my phone was going off.
I'm not arguing that your phone didn't go off. What was the instruction if you can't finish up in cases like this? What was the what are you supposed to do?
Go back and watch the session on YouTube.
You said?
I was supposed to go back and watch the session on YouTube.
So, have you done that?
Yes, I have. But
So
I have
why
not
haven't
just
you
filled.
filled the
I have not just filled the form. I will just ask for the link again and fill it.
Please,
now.
all group heads, at the end of every session, you should make available the feedback link available to all your group members and follow up with them and make sure that they fill. All group heads, make the link available. I'm sure that you have the link. You can go back to the chat and see the feedback link is always the same. The feedback link is always the same. So make sure that they fill the feedback link and also the pre-assessment link. Make sure that what you do is at the end of every session, send it to your individual groups that they should fill the feedback. At the beginning of every session, let's say 1 hour to every session, send the pre-assessment link so that they can fill. I will hold you guys responsible for this. I won't be coming to say, Olufemi, you didn't speak this day. I'll just hold the head of each group's responsible for any group member that didn't fill. Hope you guys get that, the group heads.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
So,
Yes, sir.
so once we are done with this session now, send the feedback link to your group so they can fill before the next session. And make sure that some of these names that I've read out, if they belong to your group, make sure you follow up with them to fill before the next session. Thank you very much for your time. Let's go and rest. So we'll come back by 1 o'clock for the interview skills. Mrs. Inlonley will still be the one to take that session. So bye till 1 o'clock.